Davenport Book Talk. I'm your host, Storm. Today, we step into a universe where bloodlines rewrite destiny, magic refuses to play nice, and black girls don't just survive, they disseminate systems. Our guest, Nia Davenport, is an award winning powerhouse of science fiction and fantasy whose pen is dipped in revolution. She doesn't merely write stories, she engineers worlds where magic, mayhem, and morally complex heroines are the standard, not the exception. A graduate of University of Southern California, Nia studied biological science and theater arts, then earned a MA in secondary education, which explains why her words feel scientifically grounded, theatrically cinematic, and emotionally intelligent. By day, she teaches English and biology, shaping young minds. By night, she shapes universe where black protagonists don't exist at the margins; they dominate the narrative. Whether she's skiing down mountains, discovering her next foodie obsession, or dismantling genre norms, Nia is a champion for diverse voices, cultural nuance, and unapologetic black storytelling in spaces historically allergic to our existence. Her stories don't ask permission, they demand presence. Ladies and gentlemen, and my beautiful melanated bookish beings, welcome to Black Girl Tired Book Talk, Miss Nia Davenport.
Okay, but why does your bio sound so much better than mine? Like that was amazing. Like who's that?
Yo, they call me the hood intellect.
I love it. I love it.
So let's start with these questions. Like,
Okay.
what brought science fiction and fantasy to your doorstep? Like, what moment, influence, or obsession made you say, "This is my lane. This is my calling"?
I don't think there was a moment. I remember like 4-year-old me watching Sailor Moon and being like, I am locked. I'm like locked in. And then from there to like Power Rangers to like Goosebumps to Fear Street, to teen me being obsessed with Charmed and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think science fiction fantasy, like sitting in the movie theater and watching Lord of the Rings and like the
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars as I think it was what was it that 3, 4, 5. No,
Mm,
the 4, 5, 6. The one was Samuel L. Jackson. I think that one dropped
mm.
during my high school years. And so I'm always just like I remember like really early watching like Xena Warrior Princess and
Oh, that
Hercules
was my
with like
show.
my auntie like she would keep us like during the day when my mom was at work and I would be glued in beside her like
That was my
I'm here. I'm
show.
here.
Yeah.
Um
So your work blends science, mythology, magic, and high stakes. How did the duality of biology and theater arts shape the way you approach storytelling, tension, and character development?
So I think theater arts really shapes the way that my stories, when they come to me in my head, they come to me kind of like as a cinematic movie. And
Mm,
I'm seeing the movie as the viewer, and I'm just like transcribing it as the author. And I'm
mm,
always thinking about things in terms of character arcs and plot arcs and just like the theatric 5 act structure. So that has very much, and just the difference between like dramas and tragedies and com comedies, even just from like like an old world classical perspective.
mm.
I also love like stories that play in the mythology landscape. If you
Mm.
could not tell by my nod
Yeah,
to Xena and Hercules,
yeah.
and I know that just being a theater major, having to go through like all of the like the Greek classics, and just how mythology is tied into so many of them.
Hmm.
My theater background has like absolutely shaped my love of storytelling, and I think two classes I will never forget. One was speculative fiction and how it tied in with like slave narratives. And so we
Mm.
talked about like a lot of like black science fiction and
Octavia
like
Butler.
Octavia Butler,
Mm,
just a lot. And not even like sci-fi, but also looking at like slave narratives
mm,
and then just like how like that kind of like parallels with like the things Butler was saying when she came around.
Mhm.
So that was one class I will never ever forget. And funny enough, we dissected the Matrix, and lo and behold, we find out that that story was actually written by a black woman and hijacked from her. And
Terminator
then
two.
I did not know that about the
He
Terminator.
wrote
Okay,
Terminator.
listen,
Mm-hmm.
that's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the second class I took was an African American theater class, and we went from just like the works of Du Bois through like Hughes. It was more so like an African American theater meets lit class, and just like looking at all of the like prolific black voices that have come before me and studying like the themes of identity and belonging and race and classism and colorism that have been poured and laid into all of their works. Those are two of my like fundamental theater-esque, literature-esque classes
Yeah.
that have really shaped my mind and the type of like themes I like playing with as a
Mhm.
author. I also remember I took this one like feminist literature class too,
Mhm.
and the professor was this amazing Southeast Asian woman who just took us on this whole journey, just like how like different diverse women storytellers and
Mhm.
and their voices throughout history. So that definitely is why that definitely is like a foundational reason for why a lot of my books have strong like feminist themes and
Yeah.
tones. And then from the biology, whenever I need to explain how magic is inherited, I call it my cheat hack. I just always like lean on like the principles of inheritance and just like a genetic Punnett square.
Yeah. You look. Yo, you got the magic system so concrete. Like you got them like you if somebody was to try to deny magic didn't exist, couldn't. So teaching English and biology gives you a fascinating skill set. How has being an educator strengthened your craft, especially when building systems of magic and power and consequence?
It's definitely, first of all, I taught, I don't teach anymore, but I taught for a decade in like the high school space. And teens
Mm.
will like brutally, whenever you put a work of literature like in front of them, they will brutally like rip that work apart on this just like mind blowing level.
Oh.
And so their like literary analysis always just is really like educational and awe-inspiring, and it was really fun like getting to dissect story with them on that level. And it really made me start thinking about my own writing and my own craft and how to build. And also coming as I have been an avid YA reader for since I was like maybe like 14, and I'm 38 now, and I'm still like devouring YA books. And I really love how a lot of them have like these fast-paced worlds. And
Mm.
so I definitely wanted to bring that into like my adult fantasy works as well as keep the pacings high, keep the tension high, and just have it be like go 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 go, but also weave in some more like mature themes, some more sexy times, all of the
Yeah.
other things I like about the adult
Yeah.
space too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. So I want to talk about how science fiction and fantasy has historically like erased or tokenized black characters. How do you navigate entering a genre where your mere presence is an act of disruption?
With the blood trials, I was terrified. I was terrified. I remember before it published, even before it went on submission, I had a conversation with my agent, and I was like, did I just like completely sabotaged my career? Because I was like, one, I'm writing in the adult space, and I feel like adult sci-fi specifically has been traditionally like white cishet men is what have
Mhm.
dominated that space. So I was like, I chose to write a sci-fi, which is supposedly like strike on one. There's so much discourse with traditional publishing about how like sci-fi just doesn't sell as well, and
Mhm.
there's such a slim market for it. So I was like, okay, so I did that, and then I chose to like center a black woman front and center, which I wanted to do, but again, traditionally adult sci-fi has been very like traditionally white
Mhm.
and male dominated. So I was like, oh, did I like, I'm going to go against the grain a second time. And then I said it in the adult space, which again, this was at a time where YA was having this diverse boom,
Mhm.
that the adult space has just started to see in the last few years.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, so I've actually, um
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
like, here's strike three. And I was like, what if I never find my readership? And my agent was like, girl, it is fine. Like, this is a phenomenal story. And
Mhm.
it sold. And then, like, it really showed me, like, from the onset, I was writing to myself as a Black woman, and the amount of Black women who have showed up and, like, really supported and been an instrumental force behind the plot, the vicious oaths, like being on its fourth printing. Like, I cannot thank that readership enough, because
Yeah.
I would not be where I am without them.
Yeah. So, what do Black perspectives uniquely being to speculative fiction? What truths, traumas, and triumphs does the genre finally get to confront when a Black author is steering the ship?
So for me with the blood trials, I was looking at that truth where, one, we have to work twice as hard to get half as far, and in any space, be it like the academia sphere, or the military, or just any works like workforce, or even sports or the arts. We are always hitting up against like these moving goalposts and these glass
Mhm.
ceilings, trying to shatter them. So I definitely wanted to thread that theme into the blood trials with Akenna. It was also, I love her grandfather, but Vern is very much like my grandparents, and my grandmother was one of eight, and that entire generation is very much Vern coded, in the
Yeah.
fact that they were like, we have risen above all of these, glass ceilings, and we have like made like a relatively good life for the next generation. And now I'm passing the torch. And you have to go like twice as far as we went, which is very noble, and you get where the elders are coming from, but it's
Yeah.
also an incredible amount of pressure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that pressure is definitely a weight that Akenna is feeling from the beginning of the story, knowing that she's lost, the one family member that
Mhm.
she had, and still having to carry that burden, and just being like, I'm ready to just put it down
Yeah.
in like my grief, and I don't even want to deal with it, to realizing that he was unjustly taken away from her because of bigotry and racism, and then finding that fire to be like, oh, I want everybody's heads. And I feel like that
Yeah.
also, like, the very first scene is her punching a racist in a bar. And I feel like in real life, there are definitely times where I'm like, I want to go scorched earth. And you can't, because it's a,
Yeah. But it's
um,
so relatable though. It's so
yeah.
relatable. So, do you ever feel pressure to represent all of Blackness in a genre obsessed with archetypes but allergic to nuance? And how do you resist I guess, the burdens while staying authentically yourself?
In the beginning, I felt the pressure, because I just feel like it's so important to achieve positive, reaffirming representation. But as I've gotten further along in my career, I've really held tight to the fact that I'm writing for me first and foremost, and we're not a monolith. So I can't
Yeah.
even begin to like have the ego to be like, I can write for every Black person ever out there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm uniquely writing from my own like Black American experience growing up
Yeah.
in the South. I still live in the South. I went to school in LA, but my family is rooted here. So I'm back, but I've always been between Houston and Atlanta. And so all I can do is write to my experience. And that's
Mhm.
what I'm writing to. But I'm always cognizant of reaffirming our representation in a positive way, instead
Mhm.
of like reinforcing stereotypes. Not to say I won't play in spaces like in Our Vicious Oaths, Malachi is a morally pitch black villain. And that was a character that I really had to find that line of nuance with, because Black men are demonized by society all the
Yes.
time. And I
Yeah.
definitely did not want him to be this villainous caricature. But I also feel like in a lot of literature not written by us, you get like the black guy who's like the best friend or like the perfect shining prince, and we don't get a lot of unapologetically black shadow daddies, is what I call them, who
Yeah.
are just like ruthless and well, not. I say that I see Product of the Streets behind you, and that is one of my absolute favorite series. So we get these phenomenal characters
Yeah.
in the urban romance space, but we
Yeah.
don't get as many of them written by us in the black fantasy space. And so
Absolutely.
for Malachi, I absolutely wanted to. It's so funny. I'm staring at the book because, like, genuinely, my whole goal for him was I wanted an urban romance hero, but I wanted to drop him in a fantasy setting.
I love that. I love that. Let me before I even get to my next question, I'm gonna say this. I don't like Faye. I don't like because
Fair, fair.
white authors have fucking pissed me off with the Faye, and they made them all Shakespearean and looking like Benjamin Franklin around this motherfucker. So I do not like Faye. I don't like Faye because of that, and I refuse to read a Faye book. So I read this. I read it in its totality. This is a nigga book. This is for the niggas. Strictly
And
for
it
the
is,
niggas.
and it is, and it is.
I was shocked. I said, "Oh, go. What?" Okay. Okay. So I kudos. I give
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
You might have changed my mind. You might have changed my mind. That's just saying. So, what barriers have you faced publishing stories with black leads in genres where gatekeepers often assume whiteness as the default imagination?
One of the major barriers I face, and this was with the book that it's a shelved manuscript now because I actually couldn't get it sold, but it
Mm,
was a Hades and Persephone retelling with black characters. It was set in the YA scape, and a lot of what I got was the market is too crowded for this to stand out. We don't see a place in the market, and that's really like the subtext there is the market is crowded with a ton of like white books playing it with
mm,
these same tropes in the same space, and we don't see how this book is different, which I
mm.
call bullshit on,
Yeah.
because even if like we have a million fae books or a million vampire books or a million, royalty books, by virtue or werewolves or whatever, by virtue of making the characters uniquely black and a black
Mm,
author penning their experience, it's going to automatically be something new and novel and say something unique that all the other books are not saying, that publishing
mm.
tries to measure our books against.
Mm. When editors, marketers, and or reviewers push back on cultural elements, dialect, or characters' choices, how do you protect the integrity of your storytelling without self-censoring?
So for me, the set note where it's like I hear you, but I'm also ignoring you is just it is my friend. It is my best friend. That's my set note. I have so many stories. Like one of those instances was when I was writing Out of Body, which is my YA thriller.
Mm,
There's a character who is kind of like a middle to upper class black girl. There's another one who is just kind of like this rich, wealthy black girl. And I got this really microaggressive, maybe macro, like develop, like not developmental. It was a copy editor, but the note was they shouldn't have the same vernacular, or they should be speaking different. And the subtext there was the girl who didn't have enough money shouldn't be speaking as proper as the mixed wealthier girl. And so it was one of those things where like I had to like go scorched earth in my head and then figure out how to compose one of those professional emails that read you for filth without actually
oh
cursing you
my
out.
God.
Because I was like, this is insulting on so many
Yeah.
different levels. So that was one instance. Another much more lighter instance that I laugh about with my editor now is Malachi was written to be unapologetically ruthless, but to have bullet points for why.
Mm.
So one of the notes that he gave me was, "Is he too brutal?" And I was like, no, I promise you, the romance girlies will eat Malachi right up. He is exactly the way is supposed to be. But also, I would challenge traditional publishing and ask them in return. I do wonder if like white authors writing their white or ambiguously brown shadow daddies, if like they ever get that note when they build the MMC to be both ruthless
Mm.
and ambitious and morally gray. And I don't think they do. Like obviously I don't have the data or like the evidence, but I'm like I feel like that was something uniquely to Malachi, and I just had to study it and be like, no, trust me, the romance girlies, who I am writing him for, we will love him. And then another note was actually about his grills because my editor wanted to know. And he did preface it with saying, if I'm being an ignorant white boy, just let me know. But he was like, is this too much of a modern concept? Will it yank readers out the narrative? And I was like, haha, yes, you are being an because I was like, actually, grilled like gold teeth as ornamentation. If you go back and go back and
All
dig
the
through
way to Africa.
histories, all the way back for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds
Yeah.
of years, it's 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 been used as a symbol of status and power and rank. But also, even if we didn't have that history to pull from, is literally a secondary fantasy world. So I'm a firm
Yeah.
believer that you make your secondary worlds what you want to make them, because it's like that's the fun of not setting it in the real world.
Yeah. And I mean, the white authors I've interviewed, some traditional, some indie, they have always said that their editors told them they didn't go far enough. Compared when I
Interesting.
talk to black authors, it's like I gotta hold off. They don't like this. It's too much AAVE. So it's total different. It's
Yeah.
totally different. So, how do you write black male and female characters whose complexities defies every stereotype while still acknowledging the cultural forces shaping them?
So for me, I don't know that I put that much thought into them, or maybe I do on a subconscious level. But for both of my character, or either one, I write characters who I would just genuinely like as people, who I would
Mhm.
want to like kick it with in a bar or hang out with, or who I would like be like, you are an extraordinarily dope person. And that's
Mhm.
how I build all of my characters. Like I can, and I've tried once in the past writing the like, woe is me
Oh
type
God.
character. And I think I maybe got like five, like 2 pages in and was like, you know what? I would not kick it with you anywhere because you are annoying me already. I can't do this. What the fuck do you mean? And I think just as a people, like again, we're not a monolith, but you definitely see more of your white characters like playing into like that damsel stereotype.
Yeah.
And it's like we don't have time, energy, or like the privilege to like be over here like somebody come save me. Like,
And people never
um,
understand when I say I can't stand a damsel that's too much in distress. It's just too
yeah,
much.
it's so much. It's just like,
It's
girl, get it together.
like it's too much.
It's
So,
agreed.
what responsibility, if any, do black authors have to reflect the diversity within blackness versus crafting characters who simply get to exist without explanation?
So I feel like we should get the freedom to craft characters that exist without explanation.
Mhm.
Because we're like blackness is so rich and just diverse and just like our experiences are so varied. I don't know that you can craft a character that means everything to everybody, or that
Yeah.
like gives all of the representation to everybody. So I always land on like the side of that conversation of our responsibility is to craft characters that we feel are like authentic,
Hmm.
and that we connect with first and foremost as the author. Because I feel like when you pour love into your character, that resonates, and then readers end up like picking up on how much like authenticity and passion went into building that character.
Yeah. Your books don't shy away from like power, prejudice, or systematic violence. How do you balance real world politics with escapism, ensuring the message enhances the magic rather than overshadowing it?
For me, I always balance the systematic violence as very much like reflected in the real world with moments of joy, moments of laughter, moments of characters just like kicking it or, shooting the
Mm-hmm.
shit, like moments of like, and I say this, like, I really love when the romance is threaded into my fantasy. And not
Hmm.
because I'm one of these folks who are like, if it doesn't have the romance, and I can't read it, but more
Yeah.
so just like personally as a reader and the writer, my worlds tend to be so brutal and so dark and
Hmm.
so heavy that
Hmm.
I balance that with like a really like swoony and steamy romance
Hmm.
between my main characters, and then I'll also have like secondary, more like low key ones playing out between secondary characters.
Yeah.
And those are my bright spot, my like bright spots, or like, my
Hmm.
moments of joy and happiness and
Yeah.
fun amidst like all of the brutality of the world. I also balance that by using platonic relationships and friendships and just
Hmm.
familiar relationships between, homeboys that are like brothers, and Malachi and his cadre case are like, like a sisterhood, and Kadisha and her Nikita case, or even like Malachi and his auntie, or Malachi and the one cousin he does like, or like Kadisha and even her complex relationship with her mom, or
Hmm.
Akenna and the found family, and Reed and Danica and Haynes that she gains along the way. I
Hmm.
infuse moments of joy and laughter and community and support within those relationships too, to kind of counteract how heavy the systematic violence that is very much reflective of like our our world may like it.
Yeah. Do you believe fantasy and sci-fi can exist without politics, or is the very act of world building inherently political, especially when you're black?
I don't think any genre of book exists without politics, because being sci-fi, fantasy, mystery, thrillers,
Hmm.
romance, whatever, since the beginning of time, like any medium of art, like literature, plays, music, like actual, like sculptures and like paintings, art in itself is inherently political. The act of
Yeah.
creating the art is like political itself. The act of creating the art for a specific audience is political itself.
Yeah.
Choosing that, the act of writing characters who reflect a marginalized identity, and choosing to spotlight them in all of their just like beauty and glory is inherently a political choice. So
Yeah.
I don't think sci-fi and fantasy can exist in an apolitical space. And maybe even those two specifically, because so many of the archetypes, such as like fighting against the system, or fighting against, like a big bad or a big brother figure, are fighting against oppression, is so baked within the sci-fi fantasy genre. When you
Yeah.
have a main character that's fighting against systematic bigotry or systematic prejudice or like classism or whatever, you're
Mhm.
inherently making or you should be
Yeah.
making the political statement that I do not agree with these ideas. Like these
Mhm.
like isms are fucked up and wrong.
Mhm. So world building is like a fucking beast because it's a beast. How do you know when to stop adding layers and decide this is enough? This serves the story.
Okay, so funny story. So my sister was trying to teach my 16-year-old how to cook, because she asked for a recipe book. And she was like, I'm just gonna be like, when the ancestors tell you to stop putting in the seasoning, that's where you stop. And that's genuinely how I approach my world building. Like I just sit down to write, and I add in layers as I'm going through like scenes or chapters, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
this is cool, or this element will be cool, or if I like define this, or if I go further here, or if
Yeah.
like talk about like how like food relates to culture or their dressing, or in the case of our Vicious Oaths, how like the grills are like a display of like status and rank and just the beauty of how like wealthy and powerful and just abundant and how thriving this all Black Kingdom of Fae is.
Yeah.
I just layer it until some like just my gut instinct tells me it's enough.
Oh, okay.
It's enough. It's enough.
You publish under both Nia Davenport and Annie Davenport. What is the strategy behind the name separation? Genre building, branding, readership expectations, or something more intentional?
So it's both reader expectations and genre branding building. So Nia is for my YA and my MG work, and any Davenport is for my adult work,
Mhm.
which they play in a lot of the same themes in like spaces. But if you see in any Davenport book, like 10 out of 10, you're gonna get smut. Like you're gonna get like the world building and the politics and the political intrigue and all of
Yeah.
the deep conversations, but you're also gonna get smut. Uh, but and if you see a Nia book, then it's very much you're gonna get swoons because it's written for a teen and middle school
Mhm.
audience, and so you're gonna get like an appropriate level of romance for that audience.
Okay. There's been a heated debate on threads about prologues and epilogues. So, what purpose do they serve in worlds like yours where lore, magic, and legacy are pillars of the narrative?
This is where reader me and writer me are not the same, are not of the same opinion. So, writer me, from a craft perspective, prologues and epilogues can be beautiful things. Like
Mhm.
prologues can set the stage, or they can give readers like information or world building or something about character that doesn't necessarily like seamlessly fit into like whatever that first chapter is, especially if you're following like the conventions, or like
Mhm.
somewhat of like first chapter should be like more or less like engaging and high pace, and they should like snatch something should be going on in them via like with plot or scene or
Mhm.
character or like action that sits up and kind of grab the reader by like the throat
Mhm.
and refuses to let them go. And prologues give you the chance to maybe slow that down and drop in some world building or character that maybe won't fit into the pacing of the first chapter.
Mhm.
Epilogues are like nice because, especially for me, because I tend to wrap up my books like we have like the climax, the conflict, and it's like boom, okay, we we fucked everybody up that needed to be fucked up. Story's over. And so the epilogues are nice to kind of like give you like just a taste of what happens after, like that
Yeah.
last big climactic battle. I also like the way Kennedy Ryan uses her epilogues, where we get a couple that we love and have swooned over for the entire book, and we get like a taste of their like extended happily ever after.
Yeah.
So like that's real sweet, and I love that. Now reader me, so writer me loves them. Reader me and this may be a controversial opinion. Reader me is of the opinion that for the prologue, it has to be doing something super compelling for me to read it, like it
Mhm.
in its entirety, instead of just like skimming and getting the gist of what I need to then dive into the story.
Mhm.
And then the epilogue, I'm not always read it, because if I've made it this far at this point, I'm a completionist and I need that epilogue too. But again, it has to be like giving me something like really, really like interest piquing for me to like not just like kind of like passively be like, okay, let me just see how this like wraps up. But yeah. But
I
Writer Me is like they are wonderful and extraordinary and terrific.
can't. So let's talk about blood trials. I'm not gonna go over both books, but I'm gonna go over blood trials.
Okay.
Akenna enters a society weaponized against her, from misogyny to racial hostility. What inspired her rage driven agency, and why is it important that she moves through the world with power rather than placation?
Being a Black woman in America, 1000% inspired her rage driven agency. I actually wrote the book right after the 2016 election, which no, it did not do anything. It did not alter the existence of being a black woman in like
Mm,
America, because we were dealing with the same shit before that we started to deal with after it. But it really just like I was still furious, nonetheless. I'm like, how can over how did we get here and why are we still here? When will we ever get out of this hellscape? Um, and so yeah, so my own real life experience really informed how I wrote Akinna. I went to the University of Southern California, which was a PWI that's in LA. Even moving through like middle school and high school, like my schools were majority white, and it does something to you, like
yeah.
always feeling like you are like on the fringes or like part of the community but not like fully embraced within the community.
Yeah.
And so I just poured that into Akinna and just how I just like started navigating through college and then the workforce. And just like when you walk into a space where you're one of the few, it's like you look around and the first thing you ask is, who is racist? Like, which one of y'all motherfuckers is racist?
That part. That
And
part.
it's just something that like I just do like every like I don't intentionally I don't like like think like, oh, I'm about to do this, but every time I walk into a space where I'm one of the few, I'm like, which one of y'all are like racist? Or if you're talking to me and we're engaging, I'm like, but are you racist though?
That part.
Are you racist? And so I definitely modeled Akinna off of how we have to navigate through every like facet of our existence, like trying to suss out who is truly an ally, who is
Mhm,
against us, who is overtly racist, who is low key
mhm.
racist, and hiding it behind. In the South, you get a lot of the like, I'm racist, but I'm hiding it behind smiles and Southern charm
Yeah.
and like genteel manners. And
Yeah.
so Akinna definitely is Marine is like just unapologetically a metaphor for racist America, or how racist America, how much of a racist trash fire America can actually be.
Mm,
And Akinna having to move through this society where she's hated. It can also be a very misogynistic trash fire too. So Akinna
yeah.
has to move through a society that, like you said, hates her because she's a woman and hates her because she is black. And now since she's a black woman, she kind of like have them coming from her from all sides, and not tossing. She has the magic of the ops too, and now she's like, oh,
Mm,
now I am triply persecuted. But also Akinna is a character I really love because she sits at this axis of oppression and privilege. Like her
mm,
grandfather is Vern Amari. He is the commander of the Republic. She has enjoyed a certain status. She has enjoyed wealth. She has enjoyed
mm.
being able to move pretty much how she wants to move, because everybody's like, nobody's fucking with Vern Amari's granddaughter on any real level that'll get us fucked up. So
Yeah.
she definitely enjoys a subset of privilege, even though she also hits up against some like extreme misogyny and racism too. And going back to like what facet of the black experience I was, that I reflect in my writing, Akinna is definitely in like just reflective of the middle to upper class experience. I mean, and it's not for all of us, but for like that middle to upper class experience where you recognize and acknowledge the privileges that like money and like access to certain
Absolutely.
opportunities and education and schooling has afforded you, but you're also like, but no, this doesn't wipe away the
Yeah.
racism or the misogyny that I'm going to bump up against literally every day by virtue of just daring to exist in a world as an ambitious black woman who knows her
Mm,
power and her a- agency, because the world is going to hate us. It's always like women in general, but especially black women. Like, we can't be too loud, we can't be too angry, we can't be too ambitious, we can't be too arrogant. That's a that I don't read reviews, but that is one that I have come across, and it pisses me off every time when Akinna is like, oh, when a review is like Akinna is too arrogant or like she's too full of herself. And I just feel like Black women get that so much. And I was definitely having a conversation between with myself, my younger self, and like the reader that we should be allowed to shine as bright and as brilliant and as boldly and as unapologetically as we want to shine, however that looks like for us without somebody constantly trying to extinguish us.
Yeah, I feel like, look, I was in the military and I was in the Marines of all places.
Oh,
And their racism was rampant, misogyny was rampant, misogynoir was rampant. And if you were a confident black woman, you had to be a bitch. You were a bitch. They used to call me Sergeant Bitch. That was my name because I was
that's
confident in
wild.
my skills. You know what I'm saying? And so that is a real thing. Anytime a black woman shows confidence, they're looking for insecurities, and when they don't find one, they automatically call you a bitch, or you're conceited, or you stuck up. But I've come to the terms that I'll take that because you still not gonna break me down because that's the whole
Yeah,
point of doing it. So that's how I see it.
yeah.
Blood as gift, history, and weapon is central in the duology. What does blood symbolize in this world? Identity, inheritance, danger, or something deeper?
So I think it symbolizes all of those things. There's definitely like identity and like roots because Akenna, just her blood, like she is a girl who's straddling two nations, two identities, two legacies, a magical one, one
Mm,
that's like focused on like weapons, one that's like rooted in like this largely white society where her grandfather was like the quintessential elder who was trying to not assimilate, but trying to like force a seat at the table and be
mm,
success and be accepted.
mm,
Whereas like her other half over in Kanai and even like the part of her heritage that exists within Acacia, they are like, actually, fuck it. Oh, I don't need your acceptance or a seat at your table. How about I just break your table? So blood functions on that level as far as the identity and roots. It also functions as far as like power, just who like as far as like family ties and legacy and like heritage and where you come from and what's been handed down to you and how you can leverage that in the
mm,
present sense within that world to
mm,
like carve out a space and power and respect, because it's not just a Marinian thing. From Marine to Kanai to Acacia, a person's blood, meaning like what all comprises them, everything they
mm,
are, who they are, and
mm,
everything they could be, is very much like value to the fact that there's a
mm,
high price tag on it. And it either opens up opportunities for them
mm.
within the different kingdoms, or it closes doors for them if they're not like, if they don't have like the right blood or like the right stock or the right heritage.
Mm. Now I'm about to chop up this word.
Okay, okay, okay.
The Praetorian
Praetorian, yes.
Praetorian trials read like psychological warfare meets gladiator school. How did you craft challenges that were not just deadly but emotionally revealing?
So I did a ton of research and on from what was is published, like pulling through sources on what like the Navy SEALs trials and trainings
Mm,
feel like yeah, just like what like the psychological like elements are thrown at soldiers,
mm,
what like physical trials of strength and endurance and like stamina.
mm,
For the mountain one, I did a ton of research looking at just the feat it takes for climbers who ascend Mount Everest,
mm,
and how much of like just like a brutal toll it takes on the body, and
mm,
how like just like the amount of like this trinity of like luck and timing and fitness and preparedness that it actually takes to reach a successful, like, to reach the summit
mm,
successfully, and all the horrific tragic things that have gone wrong with real climbers in the past that
yeah.
have not reached the summit.
Mm. The story blends sci-fi tech and with arcane magic. What were the challenges in merging those systems without overpowering the other?
Ooh, okay. So the the tech was very much inspired by my love of X-Men and the
Oh.
mutants, which is why I can't have blood claws low key on the cover of the blood trials, because I wanted to create a class of individuals that was basically my version of like the mutants, except they are in this world they are biologically enhanced super soldiers, but they're mutants. They're just
Oh.
scientific they're like scientific sci-fi mutants.
I would
So
love
that's
that.
so, and it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I can't actually comp this to X-Men because folks are gonna be like, girl, stop. Oh, but I definitely shamelessly went into wanting the Praetorians to feel and read like a class of X-Men, even down to the jet that Akenna gets on to fly to Kanai. Um, so that was the inspiration for the war tech, and then for the magic, I've always, like I said, really liked mythology and the
Mhm.
gods, and when like magic is handed down in family lines.
Mhm.
And so I brought that in too, and to make not one overpower the other, that's how I carved the world up between the section of the world who still very much pays homage to the gods, and
Mhm.
they embrace their magic, and the world, the part of the world that Akenna lives in that has disavowed the gods, they've basically like issued this horrific culling where they've like killed off everybody who has magic handed down from the gods. And having Akenna be a main character who exists with one foot planted in both worlds
Mhm.
helped me balance them, because it's a duality that's always a part of her, so it never felt like I was like overpowering one for the other, or like using one to overshadow the
I love it
other.
because with my family we practice hoodoo and I'm into Nordic magic. So I loved it. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. So why a duology instead of a longer series? Did you always know the story had a beginning, a rupture, and the end?
I actually envisioned it as a trilogy, but Trad Publishing only bought it as a duology. So it ending up as a duology was solely just because of the constraints that my publishing contract placed on me. They only
Mm,
bought a duology.
damn.
Yeah.
Is there any way to get the third book?
Well, you know what? I have actually, I feel like this is not a secret anymore, because I've said this a couple times in the last few months that I am actively planning on releasing a book three on the indie side. I just have to look at my calendar and like my contracted things that I have to deliver and figure out when I can fit writing a whole book three in. And then just like working through the whole beast of how to go about like spearheading or helming everything from beginning to end, as far as like writing it and production and formatting and marketing and promo and like interior
Yeah,
design and cover art. It's just like a whole beast I have to wrap my head around and just schedule it out.
I love shit. So let's go to Love Spells. Love
Ooh,
Spells Trouble. This book
yes.
tackles magical gentrification. Like, wow. And incredibly black, incredibly modern lens. What compelled you to merge community displacement, class conflict, and witchcraft?
So it's set in Houston, which is where I grew up. It's specifically set in the third world community. Sorry, it's specifically set in the third world community, which is where a large portion of like my family roots are. So I wanted to finally write a book set in my hometown. Also, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of my books are okay. I love this property, but I want to make it black as hell.
Mm-hmm.
So, Love Spells Trouble was born of my love of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Gossip Girl, and Gilmore Girls. But except I was like, oh, these are all way too white. So I was
Yeah.
like, I actually want to blend the elements I like of each like I like the dynamic of Rory and Lorelai, and like the bougie grandparents, and how the mom has kind of been ostracized and she's broken away from the parents, but the granddaughter is like in it, that series deals with a lot of themes about classicism and elitism. And
Mm,
the granddaughter is kind of like the bridge. And so I definitely wanted to thread that into Love Steals Trouble. And my spin on it was just that I wanted to make it magic and witchy, and I was like, oh, so they're witches. And the reason why the mom and the grandparents don't fuck with each other is because she married this human guy that the grandparents are like is beneath you.
yeah.
And so they haven't talked in ages, and now Caden, the main character, who's a 17 year old girl, she's in this space where she is coming of age. She's fully leaned into her human side, but she knows nothing about. I feel like roots is a theme that like kind of plays into all of my work. So
Mm,
she knows nothing about her actual roots, or like this half of her heritage and this
mhm,
half of her roots from her like magical family line. And she meets a really cute boy, and
mm,
she goes on a date, even though she's like, I don't fuck with witches because they are bougie. It's definitely giving bewitched.
mm,
Samantha and Darren, but
mm,
make them black. Make them black. And so she doesn't fuck with the witches, and then she
mhm,
meets this guy, and he's cute, and she finds out not only is he a witch, but he's like the prince of the witches. And then she's like, I'm not fucking with you, blocked. But then he's also famous, so they end up fake dating to get publicity to save her parents' struggling bakery. And
mm,
a lot of the elements that you mentioned came about with me being like, okay, I can't have a story that's just all swoons. I need to add, like, the plot must plot as the swoons are
mm,
swooning. So, the classism and just the star-crossed lovers, have or
mm,
have nots, dynamic came about from me wanting to create a divide between Kaiten and Kai, and a compelling
mhm.
genuine reason for why she was like, he's the perfect guy, the perfect walking
Yeah.
green flag. But also, I'm still not about to fuck with you. I'm about to at least delude myself into thinking I'm not fucking with you. So that was that element, and then also just the community that
Mhm,
it's set in is a community that's being rapidly gentrified in real time. So I
mhm,
definitely wanted to have the conversation about her family being from that community and owning a small business
mhm,
within that community that's now being priced out by the bougie, powerful, wealthy witches who are swooping in,
mhm.
and buying up property and throwing up these like glitzy shopping plazas and
Yeah.
boutiques that caters to people outside of that community, which is like a real conversation.
Yeah.
Um, that you see happening to historically black communities across the nation. So that's how we got like the bakery and the gentrification element in.
Mhm,
And then Kai again, another theme of mine are characters who sit at the axis of like privilege and oppression, or like privilege and like
mhm,
systematic racism. So Kai is very much, he is rich, he is wealthy, he is
mhm.
one of like these bougie witches. He's also black, and
Yeah.
he is a type of character I crafted where, while he was like the archetypal like
Mhm,
rich billionaire prince charming, but in a teen boy package, I
mhm,
wanted him not to have lost touch with his roots or his identity or even
mm,
his blackness. So Kai very much like wants to go to the historically black college that's there. When he first shows up, he's rocking the hoodie of the HBCU. He has parents who are pushing the
mhm,
PWI agenda on on him, and he is actively pushing against them. He's
mhm.
like really purposeful about devoting like the time and resources and the privilege that he has into pouring into the HBCU and its
Yeah.
surrounding communities, and like uplifting like people like of a neighborhood that he sees that like he's in a position
Mhm.
to really help affect change and empower.
Yeah. Look, I'm from Chicago, live in Chicago, and gentrification, we are the most segregated city in America. And gentrification has come to the south side of Chicago so much. I totally, totally love this book because it really dives deep in the what's, the whys, and the hows. I love that. So, Caden's stubbornness is rooted in generational wounds and in
Yes.
identity. How did you balance the flaws with growth and making them frustrating yet deeply real.
So her flaws and her stubbornness are very much rooted in generational wounds. It's not even really her own to carry.
I
Ge-
know.
it's a generational wound that's her parents and her grandparents to carry. And I just know,
Uh,
like, I built her off for like my own teens and thinking about how kids can sometimes be so loving and so fiercely loyal to their parents and just
mhm,
so like compassionate and kind-hearted that they take on the baggage or they take on the generational
mhm.
wounds that's not necessarily their place
Yeah.
to or like their burden to carry, but they feel a duty or obligation, like in solidarity, to take it on
Mhm.
anyhow. And Kaden is very much that character. So even though she meets Kai, and it's not even about the boy, like she meets him
Mm-mm.
and he's cute, and she's like, I feel really guilty about dating you because you are from a society that like broke like shunned my mom and dad, but it's
Yeah.
not really about Kai. It's about along the way she ends up genuinely being curious of this half of who she is and
Mhm.
realizing that even though the former generation was shitty, like their current generation has made leaps and bounds towards like kind of interrogating their own classism and elitism, and like
Mhm.
shutting that shit down. And that's very much a conversation we need, an intra community conversation
I
for us to have
swear.
in the Black community too, because I love us all to death, but some of us can be extremely classist and extremely bougie. And it goes back to that like Du Bois Washington, like talented 10th versus, the working class, like
Yeah.
age old
Mhm.
debate. And we have some of our own internal shit that's arguably rooted in white supremacy and colorism too that we just have to like dismantle. And
Yeah.
so it was kind of healing writing this because Kai's community of witches have already started to do the work to dismantle it. And so it makes Kaden be in a place where she feels comfortable enough to be genuinely like curious about exploring this part of
Mhm.
herself that she's always stubbornly closed herself off from because of
Mhm.
those generational wounds that she's been carrying that's really not hers.
Yeah.
But she also, because of those wounds, she feels very, very guilty
Exactly.
and is and doesn't like completely leap in because she doesn't want to hurt her parents or have her parents think that she's like choosing a boy who's better for her because he is a witch,
Mm.
and or like have her parents think that she is like coveting this life that they never gave her
Mhm.
because they wasn't capable of. And that's not the case at all. And just through the story, like another theme is, again, I feel like sometimes the youth, they don't, and I say this like hindsight is 2020 because I was the same way. Sometimes a conversation is all you need to have. Just like
Yeah.
open up and talk to us, me baby. Tell me what's wrong. So then I, as the adult who have lived through this bullshit, I can
Yeah.
help you problem solve. And so
Absolutely.
a lot of Caden's stubbornness is also rooted in internalizing a lot and never internalizing a lot and never really having a frank conversation with her parents about
Mm.
what like the guilt she's carrying, the generational wounds she's carrying, and also like these new curiosities and desires to explore this other half of herself. Um, and once she does, she realizes that her parents are like baby, like we are behind you. It's not about us, it's about you. Which that is the ideal parent who, can step outside of their
Yeah.
own mess for 1 second to put their children's needs first and foremost and be like,
Mm.
it's not about the older generation who in
Mhm.
our mess. It's about us healing from the mess so we can make it good for you.
But I feel like a lot of times the older generation has that post-slavery syndrome, and so they can't help themselves. It's like, well, my mama said this, so I'm gonna say this to you, so you better keep this going with your kids and their kids and stuff like that. And I think conversations are hard in the Black community because a lot of people in the Black community don't know how to conversate, not legitimately. So I enjoy that. I enjoy that. Now, the references to HBCUs, Greek life, Sigma Gamma Rho, y'all. Greek life, Southern culture were intentional and just fucking joyful. How do you decide which cultural touch points to preserve so readers can feel blackness rather than just witnessing it?
For me, it's adding the cultural touch points without needing to explain the cultural touch points. Like there's a
Mm,
scene in Love Spells Trouble where I'm like, like the dad is very much like Kappa coded, and it's like, oh, him and his friends, they are barbecuing and they're at the space table talking shit, giving Kai a
mm,
hard time. And I don't need to explain why we're talking shit at the space table,
yeah,
or
yeah,
even that is good natured talking shit. It's just I show you the scene, and if
yeah,
you're part of the community, it doesn't need an explanation, or
yeah,
even just me referring to like his dad's frats and the fact that they have barbecue place and they're grilling
yeah,
out. Like I don't need to explain. um I just don't need to like explain the nuances. And the mom, I'm an AKA, but the mom is very much Delta coded, and my auntie, and then my auntie ate that up. So my auntie ate it up. She ate it up. She ate it up. Like my auntie ate it right up, and she more so ate it up because when I first got to college, I like literally I hero worship her, and I was like, I'm pledging Delta right till I walked into an AKA interest meeting, and then I was like, and so my uncle who's an alpha, I was like, yo, I'm pledging AKA, and he was like, you got to tell your auntie you are not putting me up to this bullshit to tell her. He was like, you will be telling her on your own, ma'am. And I was like, because you just want to let her know for me. But she was very sweet. Like the day I crawled, she like gave me a whole gift
yeah,
basket with like AKA blankets and like all of the cool gear. So she took it in stride, but she did like that the mom is Delta coded. And so I threw in that nod. I also Caden's dream school is Howard, and
mm-hmm,
it's just like one of those like foundational pillars of the Black community with so much
mm-hmm,
history and culture and legacy. And I love that even from the beginning of like the book, there is no better alternative for her. She is like, this is my dream, this is my goal, this is where I want to go. Because she is very much a girl who yearns for community, has always been in community with her people, and
mm-hmm,
she wants to stay in community. And even Kai, like TSU, well, TSU is the school here, but I switched the acronyms up in the book. But it is a HBCU in
mm-hmm,
Houston within the third world community that my grandmother, she attended and got a master's degree from. Several of my aunties and uncles, they have attended and graduated from. So it's very much a school that is like near and dear to my family. And so I
mm-hmm.
wanted to throw a mention to it too and have Kai be like, this is where I want to go.
Yeah. I resonate with all of that because I was supposed to be a Delta. My husband is an Alpha. So people just assume because my husband's an Alpha, I was going to be an AKA, but I turned around being an SG role.
Yeah, and there you go.
But so let me ask you, our vicious our vicious bond. Oh, Lord, goddamn. All right. I'm gonna stick to 4 questions. I have plenty
Okay.
more, but
Okay, okay,
I
okay.
don't want to keep you on here for hours about this
Okay,
book.
okay, okay, okay.
Kadisha is not shy. She's like a reluctant princess archetype. She is lethal, sexual. Did I mention that the beginning of the story is sexual? Um, and politically aware. What freedoms did writing her unlock for you?
I feel like Kadisha is. I wish I was like she's amazing and wonderful and a badass in all her glory. Like you said, she is like the reluctant princess where she
Mm-hmm.
is a princess, but she's definitely not like going back. Like she's not like the damsel princess or the princess who allows herself to be like limited or restricted, even when she's operating within this misogynistic world where that's
Mm-hmm.
trying to restrict her. Khadijah very much always colors outside the lines and,
Mm-hmm.
carves out her own path to where she
Yeah.
seizes the freedoms that she can, however she can seize them. But one of my favorite things about Khadijah is like, yes, she's badass, and yes, she's fierce, and yes, she
Mm-hmm.
will literally incinerate you for looking at her wrong. She's
For damn near anything.
like she literally like plays this role where she's like, I'm much more involved than Malachi, and like, I don't like violence, blah blah blah. But also it's like, she's very much the type of character that she's the like, if you jump stupid, then I'm gonna jump back stupid, and then you're gonna be dead. So you should just stay in your lane. And like I have to respect that, like, valid. But I also think and this isn't just books. One thing that's always frustrated me in a lot of media that's not created for us by us is that whenever we get a black heroine, she's always a sidekick, or she's always the
Mm.
friend or the
The
mentor
tokenism.
or the tokenism, and we so rarely in the past have gotten to see a black woman like spotlighted in a way where she gets to like own her sexuality and like
Mm.
be like fully like desirable and like the main love interest. And this is just in like Hollywood media, just like across the board. And also even more so, I think part of that is we also come from a legacy where like black women were like tokenized as like the Jezebel for like so long throughout history. So it's also
Mm.
walking that line to like not like exoticize us, or but also I feel like I love like I it feeds my spirit when I get a black woman in a story or a movie or a TV show who is just unapologetic, who just unapologetically owns her sexuality, and who
Mm.
is like not afraid to like lean into like kink or lean into, like
Yeah.
her darker like desires. And she doesn't have any shame, because society likes to like throw around like the hoe and like the slut shaming label a lot, and that fucking
Yeah.
annoys me too. I hate that shit too. And so I really love that that's not even a thing within the world of our vicious oaths.
Mm-hmm.
And Kadisha is allowed within the world to be like as sexual as she wants to be,
Mm-hmm.
and claim that power for herself without having to think about, oh, did this make me a hoe, or blah blah blah, or all of that
Mm-hmm.
other nonsense, because that's not the way that society is key to think. Like, it's a very sexually liberated and
Oh
evolved
yeah.
society on like that front, and I
Mm-hmm.
love that.
I think, look, I'm a dom. I'm in BDSM. So I think every woman should own their own sexual agency. I literally think that women have been sitting at a table that is reserved for us to be barefoot and pregnant for too goddamn long. And I feel like we have been settling for motherfuckers who don't know how to dick you down right. And
Right?
it's time for you to speak up, because that's why you find these ain't shit ass niggas, because they don't even know that you ain't even liking what the fuck they
But
giving.
you know it. I'm like, Kanisha very much gives like the energy of, if you can tell me what to do, then tell me what to do. And and
Exactly.
and I love that for her.
Exactly. All right. So enemies to lovers can feel kind of tropey sometimes, but it's strategy, trauma, and desire all crashing together to me. So, how did you keep the romance sharp without softening the stakes?
Ooh, okay. So I made Kadisha and Malachi be genuine, like knife to throat enemies to lovers. Like, Malachi is coming for her throne. He's coming for her throne, and he's coming for her head too, because he's like, you are part of the bullshit alliance that murdered my court and my family, and now I am a grown man with a
Yeah.
grown crown and a grown throne, and I can do something about it. And I'm coming for everybody's heads, and you cannot fault him for that. Like, he
Mm-hmm.
has a valid beef
Mm-hmm.
with the part of the fake courts that Kadisha is a part of. And
Yeah.
Kadisha is very much like, fuck all that noise. like I hear you, I understand your beef, but also that ain't got shit to do with me.
That part. That
That
part.
ain't got shit to do with me. And you and I will be damned if I give you my throne or let you like hijack my court. She's like, that shit is not occurring. And so having them have these both like big, bold, dominant, fierce personalities and watching them clash.
Hmm.
While also I always call like their like you have your meet cute or like your meet hate. I call that beginning like their meet fuck. So like they
Oh.
have it in they have their meet fuck in the beginning before Malachi knows who Kadisha is because he is on his scheming bullshit. But Kadisha does not know who he is at first. But once they figure it out, at that point it becomes about more than enemies to lovers. It becomes about them tussling for dominance and power as
Mm.
individuals and really enjoying like the steaminess of the dance and the fight and the back and forth along the way.
Yo, the way he was fucking the Sonic coins out this woman.
Not the Thunder Coin, that's right.
Yo, yo, because I told you I didn't like Fate, but I read this whole book. And the way this grilled teeth motherfucker was fucking the Sonic coins out of her ass. I was shocked. I was like, eh? I think everybody need a Malachi.
Everybody's Malcolm.
So Malachi and Kadisha are bonded by vengeance and power. Why do you think readers are like drawn to couples who love with the same intensity that they fight?
Ooh, I just think it's fun. It's
Mm,
messy, it's fun, it's like full of drama, but also specifically within the fantasy scape, it's like that fine line between like fighting and fucking, right? Or
mm-hmm,
like I don't know if I want to kiss or kill you. And I can't speak for all readers, but like for
mm,
me as a reader, it's just something like really juicy and just thrilling
mm.
about like not knowing being like, yo, they actually might kill each other or they might just smash. I don't know which way this scene is about to go down, but I am here for it either way. And I am actually ready to go. I'm like locked in.
I loved it. I love that you gave Malachi this personality was unapologetically his soul, and he didn't give a fuck about nobody. Like you gonna take this shit, or you can fucking get out, or you can die. One or two.
Yeah.
And I love Kadisha because she was sweet but not sweet. She was like, "Look, I ain't no pushover, but but I'm cool until you think otherwise." You know what I'm saying? And I love
Yeah.
that. And the way their personalities clash, but at the same time themselves, compliment each other. I love that. So, why did you choose to make this a standalone in a genre where everything screams trilogy? What?
Okay. This is another one of the things where sometimes as writers we make decisions that make sense for the story, and this one does. I will give it that. But also sometimes we make decisions just like from a business standpoint, and we're in an age in trad publishing where like maybe a decade ago they was giving out these like six seven figure I mean these like 4 5 6 book series deals, and
Mm-hmm,
then somewhere along the way some study or marketing analysis, somebody analyzed something
mm-hmm,
and they got the idea that readers don't lock in for anything past a duology. So then they went to only mostly giving deals for a trilogies to then being like, oh, the readerships aren't carrying over to a book three. And apparently, and obviously, like BIPOC books get hit the hardest because they already, and this is not on readers. This is on, let me be clear, this is on trad publishing.
mm-hmm,
Because if you do the work to market and promo a book, then you can definitely like, see a higher retention of the readership. But trad publishing, like, on average, like puts in less energy to like market and promo a book from beginning of a series to end for
mm-hmm.
BIPOC and specifically Black authors. And so somewhere along the way, Trad Publishing decided that unless you were also already selling like buku units, that
Mhm.
trilogies were not worth their investment either. So then that's how the Blood Trials ended up being a duology and not a trilogy, and they bought that book in 2020. Now we're up to 2025, and somewhere within that time span, Trad has now decided that standalones are the safest, least risk of a bet. And so they are preferring at this moment to buy standalones. And that's how Art Vicious Oaths was pitched and sold as a standalone, because it was me on the trad side. It's no secret that the blood gift concluded, and then my publisher did not immediately buy the next book for me. It took them a year to be, ready to buy something else. And me making Our Vicious Oaths a standalone was me kind of trying to like nudge them towards being like, okay, you skipped on the trilogy that I pitched you. Here's supposedly a standalone that is a safer bet. I was still told that it was a risk. But here's a standalone that's supposedly the safer bet. Can you buy this?
I'm getting sick of trash.
I'm getting sick
I'm
of trash.
so getting sick of trash.
We're all sick of trash.
Oh my God, because they did the same thing to Terry J. Benton Walker because of his Blood Justice and Blood Debt books, and he couldn't get a third book out. This is crazy. This is crazy. I have seen a lot of white authors come out with like 12 books, and
Yep.
after the second book is just garbage. And you mean to tell me that they are so, oh my God, this is some bullshit for real.
It is. It actually is. It actually is.
This so what does gatekeeping look behind the curtain like, and how did you get past prove you belong here phase? Like, cause
Yeah.
this is some gatekeeping
Yeah.
bullshit.
So gatekeeping looks a lot of different. So when I was in the querying stage, trying to get an editor, I mean, trying to get an agent, and
Mhm.
hold on. Okay, sorry. Even after I got my agent, when I was in on the submission phase trying to sell the book, gatekeeping looked a lot like a rejection, like a lot of rejections being like, I love the world, I love the characters, I love the world building. I just couldn't connect with the voice. Which that is one that threatens to make my head explode, because I'm like, you are telling me that you couldn't connect with my unapologetically black voice. So but you can connect with every other cookie cutter fantasy that you are publishing right now. But and then I'm just like, have the capacity to like step outside your own experience and perspective to for one moment to understand this book likely was not written for you, but there's readers that it was written for. So it's not about if you could connect with the voice because you are in your very narrow, limited perspective, or you're just blatant racist perspective. You can't
Yeah.
connect with the voice. But like think about like the readers, the multitudes of readers it was written for, and who will connect with the voice and who this will resonate for. So gatekeeping looked a lot like that in like the initial querying and submission phase. Now that I am like 5 books in, there's still gatekeeping, and it moves a lot like it looks a lot like moving goalposts. Um, as for like, oh, you need to sell this number of units to be considered a success, and for us to buy the next book, which I did for the Blood Trials, but it was like, oh, that's not good enough, actually. So we can't go in up on another book because we need to wait and see it sell actually more than whatever the nebulous average is. And so it looks a lot like that. It looks a lot like seeing that like you're being offered a standalone with like when like counterparts are still being offered deals on like trilogies or like whatever. I know the publishing paid me hashtag that El McKinney and Toshi spearheaded a couple years ago. It looks a lot like the wildly in inequity in advance money that like
Wow.
BIPOC and specifically Black authors will get, who are out here telling phenomenal
Yeah.
stories, versus like, like the major deals that like publishing seems to just be like throwing left and right at white authors. But like for us, it's like, oh, where's the, we can only scrounge together. Like
You're muted.
it is wild.
It
So yeah,
it's annoying. It's annoying because uh-oh.
muted. Okay, so it looks a lot like the inequity in advances. It also looks a lot like, I've had friends who would tell me like it's time to like pitch their option novels or like to sell the next book, and their publisher trying to pigeonhole them into a space that kind of like chips away at like the richness or the fullness or the depth of the story that they want to tell, or even like the blackness of like the story, and kind of like
Mhm.
giving them comps for like white books that are best selling books, and be like, why don't you write a story that's more like this? And it's like, no, that's not my voice. That's that's not my thing.
That's insane.
It
That's
is.
insane. That's insane. You are a New York Times bestselling, USA Today bestselling author. I saw Byron come up in here, and she's also, and so is Terry. Y'all, what the fuck? What in the fuck in the fuck? What in the fuck? Yo, have y'all
It is,
ever
yes.
thought about being hybrid authors, indie authors, and traditionally published authors? Because my God, today.
I have genuine, like I said, that's why I have genuinely started talking to friends who are in the indie space and like taking notes and learning things about like how to produce a book on the indie side, because I have been talking about being a hybrid author for a long time. I just
Mhm.
like need to buckle down and carve out the time and the space to really put that into fruition. But that is my 2026 goal, to make it pop.
Mhm. Damn, this shit pissing me off. Every day I get on this app and interview one of you authors that are trad. I, especially being BIPOC, I be so irate when y'all tell me the stories of how they treat you guys that I just be wanting to just, can I go and knock a couple of heads together?
Together.
Because, oh my God. So, where do you see publishing shifting or refusing to evolve when it comes to Black speculative fiction?
So, in my most optimistic hopes of hopes, I want publishing to shift in a way to where we keep getting a breadth of like just a
Mhm.
wealth of Black speculative fiction stories, from your fantasies to your sci-fi to your horrors to your romances, like just all of them across the board. I feel like Black sci-fi specifically, we have a serious lack of, because just publishing just doesn't believe sci-fi in general sells. So if you try to sell it Black sci-fi, that's like doubly hard.
Mhm.
So I love sci-fi. Like I love a good
Mhm.
sci-fi. And what I really want is, what I would really love to see more are sci-fi romances, because they
Mhm.
are immaculate. And we don't have like nearly enough of those across the board either. So I really want publishing to shift to where we get more Black sci-fi, more Black fantasy, more Black horror, more Black fae and vampires and
Mhm.
witches and werewolves is what I really want more of on the trad side, where I have tried to pitch them several times and I keep getting shut down. I keep getting shut down and told that werewolves are not really popping with readers, and I'm like, okay.
Oh
So
my
I
God!
just want more Black speculative fiction of all types.
Who the fuck is running these places? Who the fuck? Yo, Tessa Stone's
I
fucking,
love Tessa. Yes,
that
yes.
should be traditionally published because that book is a fucking, no, that's
I
serious.
love that book. Yeah.
And then you have Elsie's son who came in here. She has an amazing series. And when you talk about sci-fi, I don't even know if you heard of D'Artagnan Johnson.
Ooh, no, but let me write this down.
D'Artagnan Johnson, not
Okay.
only does he have sci-fi, he has an operatic sci-fi that is like Star Wars and Star Trek mixed
Ooh,
together,
okay.
and he has a romanticy, and he is black, a black male,
Love
and
it.
he
Okay.
D'Artagnan writes his ass off, and he almost gave it up because nobody was reading it because it's sci-fi. I was like,
I love a good sci-fi. Um,
yo, yo,
if you
that's
give me something that feels like Dune or Star Trek or Star Wars,
D'Artagnan.
but just make it black, I'm all there. Like I'm there.
D'Artagnan and Navi Robbins,
Okay.
they they the ones. The way that I don't see why they don't have traditionally published deals is ridiculous. But hey, I'm just saying. So have you ever been told that your work is too niche or too angry or too black? And what did you do with that feedback?
So fortunately, I've never been told that by anybody on my publishing team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't think I've ever been told that just like in like a colleague, critique, partner
Mm-hmm.
space because I'm very intentional about building up like who I'm in community with as far as like writing peers and colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
and bookish content creators. Intentionally have built up a community of like black readers and black
Mm-hmm.
writers and black content creators. One of the very first communities I was a part of is the Fire Lit Mag. They have like a community of black speculative fiction authors. They are a phenomenal group of black spec fic editors who put out I believe it's a quarterly speculative fiction mag for with black spec fic written by black diaspora authors. If you have not checked it out, check it out. Check out
What's
Fire
the
Lit
name
Mag.
again?
Fire Lit Mag.
Okay.
Okay. FIYAH. But yeah, so check it out because they are publishing like from indie to trad authors. They are publishing some phenomenal like short fiction within their
Mm.
space, and they are one of the first communities that I joined as just baby author me back in like 2017, kind of like floundering, didn't know what I was doing, just looking for
Mm.
like community and mentorship and advice and like connections. And the whole Fire editorial team, they invited me to a writers group, an online writers chat group, and like Brent and Lakesha and Andre and even Devon over there, they served as my earliest critique partners and my cheerleaders. And literally, I don't think there would be a Blood Trials or an Our Vicious Oaths if not for that community. Because at times
Mm.
where it felt like I was climbing like just this uphill mountain that was impossible, the fire team were really just like instrumental in like reaffirming like my
Mm.
writing and what I was doing and being like, no, we need your work. And also, I feel like Brent over there and Devon, both of them, they're on staff there. They were one of the earliest like critique partners of like Akina and the Blood Trials
Oh.
to like help me bang that whole story and world and character into shape. Yeah.
Oh shit. So what protections, networks, or strategies should black authors adopt when entering a system not designed for our success?
I feel like one of the biggest ones is to very strongly and firmly know your voice and who
Mhm.
you're writing for and the types of stories you want to tell, because trad publishing will try to chip away at the way you want to portray your characters or like the themes you want to explore or like the plot arcs. And and it may not even be directly like, a direct in insult, right? It may be just the background noise of this is what's selling and this is what's trending and this is what's too niche and this is what's hot right now and this is what's blowing up on Booktalk, even though the only Booktalk I acknowledge is literally Black Booktalk, because I'm
Mm.
like, whatever else is going on outside of Black Booktalk, I genuinely don't care. Um, and I'm not taking Rex.
I know that's right.
um, so. Yeah, so a lot of the layers of publishing will try to like literally chip away. Like even for me, I remember when the Blood Trials hadn't sold it yet. I spent a year. It was really hard finding the like belief and passion to just write something else because I was so anxious and so disheartened about if I would ever sell a book, if I would ever publish a book,
Mm,
if I would ever write a story that was like worthy or like valued or that, eh, the gatekeepers could see a place for on bookshelves. And it's an experience that a ton of my Black writer friends have had in the
mm,
past or are going through now, being like, I don't know if I want to keep going, or I don't know if there's
mm,
like space for me or my voice. And so
yeah.
I would say, hell yes, like hell fucking yes. There's always space. Trad publishing does not know shit when it comes to Black authors and what Black readers want and the type of readership that we will draw in. So just stay true to like your voice and your vision and your story. And the readers are there. We are
Mhm.
hungry for dope Black speculative stories.
Hell yeah, definitely. How important is for your readers, especially non-black readers, to experience black culture not as exposition, but as joy, flavor, rhythm, and inheritance inside magical worlds?
And so for me, and I went through this with my group of sophomores when I was we did a Black speculative fiction unit that I taught. And so I'm not saying, so I don't think Black writers should write with the goal of reaching non-Black audiences. I think
Mm-hmm.
they should write with the goal of like reaching their target audience that they want to reach.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that when you talk about who gets to be featured as a protagonist or the hero or the
Mm-hmm.
princess or the captain that saves the day or like the general and who doesn't. Again, art is political, so it's like it's either reaffirming
Mm-hmm.
something about society, about whose lives are valued, who lives matters, who experiences matter, who you can relate to, who you can find compassion and
Oh my
kindness
God.
for, and who you accept as like your fellow neighbor that you're in community with, and who exists on the fringes. So
Yeah.
I think it's important for non-Black readers to read diversely,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can like kind of like step outside the narrow scope of their own perspective. And so they are constantly like challenging whatever like inherent or societal stereotypes about others that have just been, because like no individual is going to move through the world without getting like some type of bullshit like stereotype like ingrained in their head, because it's just the way that society works. But the I think the burden is on the individual to constantly clock it and challenge it and like seek out literature and real life experiences that like refute the bullshit.
So, what do you want readers to carry with them long after the last page of your stories?
Ooh. Um, that Blackness is beautiful and rich and celebrated and fun. But I also just want them to carry just like the beauty and the fun and just like how dope it is to read an epic Black fantasy stories that is not concerned with whiteness at all, where it's a
Mm,
world that we get to exist in the majority, or a world populated entirely just by us, and
mhm,
just to be like reaffirmed, like for all the sci-fi and fantasy lovers, I think it's something like really, really uplifting and beautiful about seeing yourself and your culture and like, your beauty celebrated and spotlighted within the genre that you love. So I just want readers to like carry that, to know that joy and carry that joy. And not just, it doesn't have to be my book that they pick up, but like any Black fantasy book. Like I just
mhm.
hope that I just want them to get that joy of being like, I see myself.
Yeah. What advice do you have for Black authors stepping into sci-fi and fantasy?
Ooh, advice for Black authors stepping into sci-fi and fantasy. The blacker the better. The blacker the better. The blacker the better. No, and I say that because for a long time, like it took me a long time to get to Our Vicious Oaths, where we have this black fantasy where like they're eating like the like the traditional soul foods that you'd see if you walked into like my grandmother's kitchen with like the cornbread or the collard greens or the yams, into where like Malachi is wearing a grill, because I feel like maybe 8 years ago I had a conversation with a really good writer friend where I was like, so I will pick up other BIPOC authored fantasies, right? And it'll feel like elements of other cultures are woven so seamlessly within secondary made up fantasy worlds. And I was like, why when I try to do that, it feels like
Mhm.
it feels so rough, or it feels like so like jarring when I'm
Yeah,
trying to do it, or like I'm like existing in a space that I'm not supposed to exist in.
yeah.
And some of the best advice I've ever gotten is that it's because largely sci-fi and fantasy has been so heavily white and male
Mhm.
dom- dominated that you have to like actively work against what publishing has set up as the norm,
Mhm.
and just like redefine what the normal is, because growing up from like little to like big, you see all of this, like you see the Star Trek and the Star Wars
Mhm.
and the Dunes and all and the Lord of the Rings, and all of that is very much like white European westernized fantasy.
Mhm.
And so I just had to really dismantle what fantasy had been ingrained in my brain to look like from like childhood me,
Mhm.
and just like this like dismantle the whole like
Mhm.
picture of what fantasy could be. And two books that really helped me do that was N.K. Jemison's 100,000 Kingdoms.
Mhm.
I know the Broken Earth trilogy is the award-winning one, and it is amazing, and it should have all of the flowers, but the 100,000 Kingdoms is my absolute favorite, and it's like the
Yeah.
most beautiful romantasy before romantasy was this term.
Yeah.
It is like chef's kiss. And also, I yell about L.A. Banks, her Vampire Huntress
Yo, we
legend
were just
stories.
talking about
Yo,
minions. We were just talking about minions the
Minion,
other day.
yes. Listen, Damali and Carlos are like my everything, and they've been my everything since I've been like 19 years old. So we
Mm.
rocking on almost 20 years now. And that was the very first time I picked up a book and saw a black girl as the heroine in like
Yeah.
a fantastical world. She was this badass vampire hunter. She had this sexy OG shadow daddy that was like literally trying to walk through hell for her, and square up with all of hell. Like it was the book that transformed the entire trajectory of my
Yeah.
life and made me say I want to write black fantasy.
I think if LA Banks didn't walk, Anita Blake series would have never ran. That's how I
Absolutely.
feel about it.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
LA Banks didn't walk, the woman who made Anita Blake series couldn't have ran the way she ran. I'm just putting it out there.
And you wouldn't be lying. You wouldn't be lying.
But it's been a wave like in indie writing of urban paranormal, and the people who do it well is Natavia, um, E. Bowser with Brothers That Bite.
Listen,
That Brothers That Bite series is something else.
okay.
And Marcia Black, she's a new author. She wrote a book called The Vampire Who Tried It.
Ooh, okay.
That's the blackest fucking shit I ever seen in my life.
Listen, I am scribbling them down because I read E. Bowser's contemporary stuff, but listen, I am like literally, I'm always looking for more rec, and I feel like my reading list is 90% indie because, like you said, especially Black indie authors are doing
Mhm.
they are writing such phenomenal
Yes.
stories that I'm just
Yes.
like, just keep them coming because I'm going to keep buying and reading all of them.
Well, just friend my page, and when I do because I'm known for doing 30 to
Okay.
40 book reviews at a time.
Nice. Okay. Okay.
And I promise you, it's a lot of
Okay.
paranormal and
Okay.
sci-fi on there.
Okay. Yeah. I just finished Jessica Cage just series. It was
Yo, the Shadow Daddy.
The Shadow Daddy one, yes, and I've read the Vampire one before.
Man, look, look, look. That shit is funny as fuck. Like
Hilarious.
funny as hell. You need to read Rosemarie's shit. What's the name of that damn book? Carved by Lust.
Okay.
Carved by Lust. The way this man is pretty handsome, fucking the brakes off of this woman who is a black football player.
Okay.
Girl.
Okay. Yeah. I also just grabbed what is it, the Granger series, because I keep
Ooh.
seeing things from that book
Let
that
me
got me
tell
being
you,
like, oh, I need to dive in right now.
the Drew man, look, that series so good. So good,
Okay.
had me flabbergasted. That's the type
I'm
of
excited.
that HBCU system is amazing.
Okay. I'm excited for that one.
Amazing. So, what events, tours, or signings can we expect for you next year? Before you say that, I
Okay.
just want to put this out here. The Boozy Book Tour is doing a Haunted Mansion fantasy tour.
Ooh.
Yes, ma'am. And the genres are paranormal, fantasy, romantasy, thriller, psychological, horror, anime, Afrofuturism. So,
Okay.
and
I,
that is going to be in Savannah, Georgia in
okay.
2027.
Okay, I'm going to literally look that up as soon as we get off of here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Uh, Off the top of my head, in the middle of February, actually my birthday weekend, because my birthday is Valentine's Day, I'll be at Love Y'all Book Fest in
Oh,
Atlanta. So I'll be there February. I'm like going through the dates in my head. What is it? Chocolate City Lit Fest. I'm not sure about
mm-hmm.
the month right now, but I will be there. I will also be obviously Black Romance Book Fest. Like
I
as
see you
long as they
there.
invite me back, I am pulling up because I had such a good time last year. I'm like, y'all gonna have to drag me away from it.
I will see you there. I'm a moderator.
Uh,
I don't know what I'm
okay.
moderating, but whatever.
Yeah, okay. I'll also be at Imaginarium, which I hear is also it'll be my first time, but I hear it is a phenomenal one. And so I'll be there
I missed the
in
tickets.
June. Oh, okay, yeah. I'm also Book Harvest in Chicago. I'll be there next October.
I'm going now.
Um, yeah,
I'm
I'm
going now.
going
Now
now.
that I know that you're going to be there,
Okay.
yeah, I'm going
Yes,
now.
I will be there. The pictures looked fun. I like a good fall themed event, so I'll be there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get the
And
tickets.
before I forget, like last but not least, because I just saw Jess's homecoming, I'll be back in Atlanta end of October for Fate in the A, and I'm actually super excited about that. And I need to get a whole cosplay going.
Oh,
And I think it's just like informally, like not as like a person unless they invite me. I'm gonna roll up to BlurredCon in March because I keep hearing it's good. So I'm just gonna grab like actual
you talking about the one in
attendee.
Texas?
No, the one in I think it's in DC. I'm gonna roll up to DreamCon too, just as a
Oh, cause
person
that's the
to
one I'm talking about.
yes.
DreamCon.
Yes, I have it on my calendar. I think I missed the release. So I think more tickets are coming out like beginning of December. I'm rolling up to DreamCon because I was mad. I love BRBF, but I didn't get to go to DreamCon and Meg popped up and I was like,
I
what the fuck, bro?
know.
What the
I
fuck?
know. I know. Yo,
Yeah.
but the tickets
Yeah.
sell out so fucking fast.
I know, and I hear it's such a good time. So I'm gonna try to like, I'm gonna have to have my like keyboard fingers ready and try to like grab me some tickets.
You and me both.
But
You and me
but
both.
yeah.
So, where can we buy your books, and will there be more special editions?
So the Saddest Fiction special edition has not been released yet. It comes out in February.
Mhm.
I believe there are still copies left, and I think I don't know if the sale is still going on, but they did have a really good Black Friday sale up on their website. It's really gorgeous, digitally sprayed edges. Jess, also, I keep seeing her on
Mhm.
here, but she is. Can I say this shit? I don't know if I can say this, but sorry if I'm spilling secrets. But Jess should have some really pretty sprayed edge additions too up on her
Ooh.
site. With I believe there's crowns and gold dragons, and they are just like
Ooh.
gorgeous and phenomenal. So I mean, if you want to buy special editions, I prefer y'all grab them from a Black from a Black owned company. So those are my two, yeah, those are my two suggestions.
Oh, okay. Actually, I gotta give me a special order because I like special editions. I
I
love
do.
special editions. So give us your social media handles and where people can subscribe to your newsletter.
On Instagram and Threads, I am at Nia.Davenport. On TikTok, I am Nia Davenport. You can my website is anydavenport.com. On any of those sites, there's a link to my Substack and you can subscribe there.
Okay, I'm gonna do your outro, do two announcements, and I'm gonna get you out of here.
Okay.
All right. What Nia Davenport does is not just storytelling, it's reclamation. She writes futures where blackness isn't an afterthought or a subplot. It's the origin, the weapon, the prophecy, and the pulse. Her characters bleed, fight, love, and burn their way through the worlds that finally reflect our complexities. If you're tired of narratives where diversity means one token character, if you're craving stories where the magic is melanated and the destiny is dangerous, follow her, buy her books, support her work, and step boldly into the world she built. This is Black Girl Tired Book Talk. I'm your host, Storm, where we don't just read, we interrogate, we celebrate, and we elevate the minds shaping our stories. And as I always say, stay loved, stay loud, and stay black on motherfucking purpose.
And that's on that. Thank you.
But announcements. All right. Boozy Book Tour will be in Las Vegas. We are having the
Ooh.
Pajama Jam. You know, Kid and Play 2, whole 3 days of pajamas. The Melanated Ball, the Indie Literary Awards, and the book signing. So y'all already know, first day we are going to go see House Party 2. And then we're going to head to Adult Arcade to play arcade and laser tag. And then we're going to do karaoke at the Venetian Hotel. And then the next day, we're going to have you at the event space, which we're going to shuttle you from the Golden Nugget Hotel to the venue. And we are going to have the book signing. Over 61 authors are going to be there. And then after that, is going to be the Indie Literary Awards, where we're going to get you drunk and feed you. And then we're going to have the Melanated Bar, where our DJ is going to play nothing but 90s music. And it's going to feel like a 90s homecoming, college homecoming. So it's going to be a time. We have vendors like the Urban Tea Room, which you need to get in tune with, because
Okay.
she make teas for your characters.
And I love me a good tea. Okay.
Yo, this right here. Books and
Okay.
blends, yo. She makes tea. She made one for Jaquel J, E. Bowser. That motherfucking tea's good as fuck.
Okay. All right.
And then we have the Q Suites. We have Print Shop, and who else? Hoe bags. You heard me. Hoe bags. Yo, spend the night bag. Everybody do the hoe bag. All right. And then in June, that one is happening February 27th through March 1st. So that's a 3-day event in Las Vegas. It's going to be a time. And a lot of stuff is being hosted by the Queens of the Melanin Ball. So check it out. Now, then the next thing we're going to be doing is in June. June 19th and 20th is the BDSM event. That is interracial, multicultural, erotica, dark romance, and BDSM. That is a 21 and over event that will be in Denver, Colorado. You must be over the age of 21. You must sign the NDA. Reason being, because the meet and greet is Sex 101 and adult toy party. The second day is the book signing, but then it's an immersive BDSM experience. What happens in Colorado stays in Colorado. Ain't nobody's business. You hear me? Nobody's business. And as you know, we are doing a sale this till Monday, Cyber Monday, where it's 50% off and 25% off. So get your tickets now. Now, as I was saying, we are having a fantasy ball that will be in Savannah, Georgia. 75 authors, Black authors, BIPOC authors that only write fantasy, romantasy, paranormal, horror, sci-fi, thriller, anime, Afrofuturism. That will be it. That will be all that will be there. And this is a 4-day event in Savannah, Georgia. It is starting off with the Sailor Moon cosplay, bar crawl. Then it's the Mad Hatter Tea, where you have to dress up like Alice in Wonderland characters. Then we're going to have a day of workshop